3.3.
Right, shall we start? The aim of this meeting is to discuss our new project. As you know, we're planning to make 10 programmes on the food and drink of other countries. The cost of the first 3 programmes will be financed by NMP, but to produce the other 7 programmes, we'll need investment from other companies. In this meeting, we must decide first which countries we want to have in the pilot programme. So, what are your views? Eric, would you like to start?
Well, in my opinion, the first programme should be about the most exotic countries, say Japan, Mexico and Thailand. I'm sure the programmes about these countries will be the most exciting ones because everything there is so different.
Yes, you could be right, Eric. But from a financial point of view, the cost of making programs in those countries will be too high for NMP's budget, so I'm afraid I can't agree with that idea. We must have European countries in the first 3 programs.
OK, then how do you feel about having Japan, Mexico and Thailand in later programmes?
Yes, I agree with that, on the condition that we can get the investment we need. Of course.
Yes, Pete's right, Eric. We must think of the cost. Personally, I think France, Italy and Spain would be the best choices. I really do think it's better to start with high-profile countries, because...
Sorry, Rosa, I don't quite follow you. Could you explain what you mean by high-profile countries?
Well, I mean countries whose food and drink is well known in other countries, well known internationally.
Maybe, but the French or Italian or Spanish food that other nationalities eat in their countries is often very different from the real thing.
Yes, and if people don't know that already, they'll discover it from watching our programmes.
Let's hope so.
Right. Do we all agree then? France, Italy and Spain for the first 3 programmes?
Yes, definitely.
Yes, I'd go along with that.
Good. Then let's move on to the next topic, the pilot programme. We need to decide which country...
3.4.
So the pilot programme is very important.
Oh yes, it's extremely important. Our pilot programme has to do 2 important things. First, to make investors want to put their money into the project, and second, to make TV companies want to buy the programmes. Of the 3 countries...
Just a minute, Rosa. Could I just ask something? When you and I discussed this before, we agreed that the pilot programme would be one of the 10 programmes, didn't we?
Yes, we did. So of the 3 countries, I'm inclined to think that France would be the best choice. However, before we make a decision, we need to find a consultant for each programme, someone who knows the country and its cuisine very well, so we can get the information we need before we plan the programme in detail.
Yes, that's an important point. Do you think someone who's written a book about the country's cuisine would be the kind of person you need?
Before you go on, could I say something? I know a Spanish person who's written an excellent book on Spanish cuisine. She lives in London, and her name's Maria Ferrando.
Really? Do you think she'd be interested in being a consultant for the programme on Spain?
I'm quite sure she would.
That's great. Then let's contact her straight away. If she says yes, do we all agree on Spain for the pilot programme?
I agree completely.
Yes, definitely.
That's lucky, Eric. Maybe you know some experts on French and Italian food and drink as well?
Yes, I'll think about it. Maybe I do.
Well, I think that's everything. Is there anything else you want to discuss?
No, I'm fine.
No, I don't think so.
So, to sum up then, we've agreed that the first 3 programmes will be about France, Italy and Spain, and that if we can get Maria Ferrando as a consultant, we'll have Spain in the pilot programme. Good. Let's call it a day then. Thanks, Eric, Pete. Well, I don't know about you two, but I could do with a drink now.
3.5. 1,
Could you explain that again?
2,
Could you explain that again?
3.6. 1. A.
Could you begin, James?
B.
Could you begin, James?
2. A.
Excuse me, could I come in here?
B.
Excuse me, could I come in here?
3. A.
Can we get back to the main point?
B.
Can we get back to the main point?
4. A.
Would you mind repeating that?
B.
Would you mind repeating that?
5. A.
Could you go over that again?
B.
Could you go over that again?
3.7. 1.
Could you begin, James?
2.
Excuse me, could I come in here?
3.
Can we get back to the main point?
4.
Would you mind repeating that?
5.
Could you go over that again?
Unit 4. 4.1. The graph shows the average number of hours that people watched television in the UK last year. During the winter, particularly in December and January, people always watch more television. In January last year, the average number of weekly viewing hours stood at 28.1. This figure went down steadily for the next 2 months, reaching 27.2 in February and 25.5 in March. The number of viewing hours then fluctuated a little. They increased slightly to 26.1 in April. They then fell dramatically to 23.3 in May. The figure then rose very slightly to 23.5 in June, and then more or less levelled off for the summer, which is traditionally the time when people watch the least television. The figure decreased slightly back to 23.3 in July and reached its lowest point in August at 23.2. Average viewing hours went up sharply in September to 25.3 and then increased more gradually for the rest of the year to 26.1 in October and 27.4 in November. The figure reached its highest point in December at 28.2 hours per week. So the overall seasonal trend last year was a gradual fall in the first part of the year, a levelling off in the summer, and then a steady rise in the last part of the year. 4.2.
Globalization is certainly a hot topic. As consumers, it seems that we are all increasingly using the same products, eating the same food, even watching the same TV programs and films. Does this mean that the differences between our societies are disappearing, with more and more people buying fewer and fewer brands? If so, how does the average consumer feel? To try to answer these questions, I have with me John Rivets, an economics journalist, and Professor Naomi Kent, a consumer affairs specialist. John, is globalization in consumer products really increasing that fast?
Yes, I think it is. People in the developing world want many of the things that they see coming from the developed world. And in the West, we're constantly looking for new markets. We're very successful at persuading people to buy everything, from fast food to cigarettes and designer clothes.
And how does the average consumer feel about this?
Well, you have to ask, who is the average consumer? You could argue globalization means some consumers can get the products they really want. However, other consumers see it as a bad thing. Look at cigarettes, for example. Global production of cigarettes is increasing more slowly than before, as people in the developed world, in particular, become more worried about the health risks. But manufacturers have identified developing countries as potential growth markets. Between 1975 and 2000, annual deaths due to tobacco in developed countries rose steadily from 1.3 million to 2.1 million. But in developing countries, they went up dramatically from 0.2 million to the same figure of 2.1 million. But it's not all bad. There are many positive and responsible forms of trade between the developed and the developing world.
And Naomi, do you share John's opinion?
Yes, but I think it's important to say that there's a growing trend in imports from the developing world. More and more people in the West, and the developed world in general, are buying products that are different and unusual, and they're asking questions about the origins of these products. Consumers won't accept that products have to be made by badly paid workers in sweatshop conditions. That's the idea behind the fair trade movement, of course.
What other issues worry this new kind of ethical consumer?
Products that cause environmental damage, products tested on animals.
Yes, but the total market share of ethical goods and services in the UK remains at under 2%. Perhaps we need to think of the bigger picture. Take the Hollywood film industry, for example. It dominates world cinema and stops film industries in other countries developing. It also advertises Western consumer products and lifestyles.
I don't think it's as simple as that. Local consumers in developing countries don't just buy what the West tells them to buy. They make choices. You mentioned Hollywood. In India, the homegrown film industry is much more important, particularly in Mumbai or Bombay, the home of the so-called Bollywood movies. And the all-singing, all-dancing Bollywood films are, in fact, now becoming popular in the West.
Yes, I accept that it's a two-way process, but I worry that the traffic is heavier in one direction. We certainly have to be careful about trends in international trade.
I agree, but I think more and more people in the West are becoming ethical consumers, thinking very carefully about what they buy. You know, reading the labels on products or supermarket shelves. This is making manufacturers think about these things as well. Put very simply, people enjoy their coffee more if they know it's been produced by workers who are not exploited.